It makes total sense that you would think researching school districts, checking flood boundaries, and driving through a neighborhood on a quiet Sunday afternoon is the right steps to take before buying a home here in the Sioux Falls area. But what people don't realize is that how much that neighborhood could change in the next few years with the way that Sioux Falls is growing. I've actually put together a free link in the description that will get you to all of the web pages so that you can do your own research and feel super confident in what you decide to purchase here in the Sioux Falls area. Because after helping 300 people buy, sell, and relocate here in the Sioux Falls area, I certainly want to make sure that you make a confident decision. And I've seen firsthand how much Sioux Falls has changed just in the last couple of years. So I've actually broken this down into 5 neighborhood issues that might seem perfectly fine today, but there may be changes in place that are coming down the road that you need to be aware of. Those quiet neighborhoods that you toured on that quiet Sunday afternoon may not feel quite the same as Sioux Falls works through one of its biggest infrastructure changes in decades. And here's what's actually happening all at once. The city of Sioux Falls has over $431 million in road construction projects over the next 5 years. And just in 2026 alone, we have over $65 million worth of construction projects in the works. Some of the major ones to take note of are the South Veterans Parkway, Highway 100 construction project that'll be under construction until 2027. The 85th and I-29 interchange, which I'm super excited about, is going to control a bunch of our overpopulated areas, and it's actually not planned to open until the fall of 2027. So as you can imagine, there's lots of traffic that come through those major arteries, and we're definitely going to see that traffic spill over into our residential areas around the construction. So that quiet neighborhood that you fell in love with, if it's anywhere near some of these major construction projects, you're definitely going to feel a little bit of traffic, because even the South Dakota DOT acknowledges that no matter what, cars have to get from point A to point B. So they're going to spill over into these residential areas as they're working on some of these major roadways. So something to definitely pay attention to. The next topic we're going to take a look at is HOAs. Now, Sioux Falls doesn't have as many HOAs as other metro areas. They're not quite as popular here, but the ones that we do have either take care of garbage, lawn, and snow, and they're a little bit more selective, but the ones we want to really focus on are the ones that take care of your roof, your siding, your paint, the exterior maintenance items, because those can cause a problem. Now, nationally, over 67% of homes are part of an HOA, but Sioux Falls is a little bit more selective. However, Sioux Falls does not require HOAs to have reserve minimums. So the HOAs that take care of all of that exterior maintenance, you want to make sure that you take a look at where their financials sit, because HOA reserves that are under 30% are critically underfunded. So if we do get a hailstorm, which we do get frequently, and the roofs get hailed out, if we don't have enough funds in that HOA, where do you think the rest of that money is going to come from? They're probably going to assess the owners of that HOA development so that they can take care of that roof issue. There's one thing to be said about a reasonable HOA, but a reasonable HOA might mean that they're not setting aside the appropriate funds for the things that they have to tackle down the road. If you're someone who loves the idea of no exterior maintenance, not having to scoop the sidewalks and deal with snow, garbage, taking care of the lawn, get rid of that lawnmower, then HOAs are a really great option for you. Taking a deeper dive into where the finances sit and what the reserves really look like for that HOA are very important. And this is not me saying that these HOA communities are run poorly. Usually these HOAs are run by volunteers, and they're just doing the best that they can with the information and the process that they have been given. So just know that all HOAs are not considered equal. To make sure that you do your homework and you know exactly what you're getting into when you're looking at HOA communities, because you certainly do not want to get a surprise. Speaking of surprises, and one that you'll never want to get, is that future development is actually happening in a neighborhood that you love, because future development and rezoning definitely happens here in Sioux Falls. And even though you're in an established community and a neighborhood that feels fully built out, there are still zoning changes that can happen, especially with Sioux Falls' projected growth. Let's jump into the numbers, because realistically, Sioux Falls is growing fast. And actually, they're thinking by 2030, we could have over 250,000 people in our population. Then jump to 2050, and they're thinking over 350,000 people. Now, when you're thinking about all of those people coming into the Sioux Falls community, we have to find housing for them. So one of the trends that I've seen is that single-family housing has actually dropped. The stats actually say 66.2% in 2000 dropped to 63%, which were single-family homes in the city of Sioux Falls. Our construction valuation, just looking back at 2025, was over $1.325 billion. That's a lot of construction. As we continue to see the city make changes to zoning, we're seeing a lot of agricultural land, bare land on the perimeter of Sioux Falls, and even inside of Sioux Falls, change from that agricultural to zoning that would put more high-density housing and single-family homes in those neighborhoods. So even though you're in a residential neighborhood that's maybe well established, there's definitely changes that can still happen. The city has long-range plans that could change the residential zoning to more of a mixed use, higher density, and maybe even commercial in certain areas. So doing your homework ahead of time and knowing what the city plans are for a neighborhood that you're planning to buy in is really important, because we want to make sure that wherever you land, that will fit your family and the goals for your family for years to come. I do want to say that I feel like the city of Sioux Falls does a really good job of being thoughtful in their planning, but you definitely want to do your homework. So make sure you check out that link in the description below, where you can get all of the resources you need to make an educated decision. Now, the developments that we talked about recently, those happen gradually and over time. But there is another issue that actually can change very quickly. That next issue is our flood maps and the risks that come with it. So as a buyer, you should definitely be taking a look at the flood zone information provided by FEMA. But one thing that people don't understand is there are certain areas that are zoned X on that FEMA map that actually are more based on historical data. Recently, June of 2024, we had a major water event. The Big Sioux River actually crested at 38.4 feet. The previous record was 37.7. That's a big jump, and it made a huge change. A lot of people that had never had water in their basements had water come into the basement and flood the spaces. We had roadways that were covered that had never been covered before. We had over 13 inches of rain in just 48 hours, and our drainage system just couldn't keep up. So yes, the FEMA maps are very important to look at and make sure you do your homework, but they may not tell the whole story, because they're really working from more of a historical data. They're not working from real-time data. So knowing if a area is more prone to water, here in the Sioux Falls area, we definitely have sump pits and sump pumps. I know that's not always a thing in other areas, but that is one of the tools that we use to keep water out of our basements. So things like that, and knowing what development changes, what drainage changes might occur with the growth that we're going to be seeing in Sioux Falls are really important. So as you've heard, there are a lot of changes that can make a difference in a family's life, but this number 5 tends to be a big one. And in Sioux Falls, school district boundaries are a hot topic. One of the major things that families focus on when they're moving to Sioux Falls or moving within Sioux Falls is a school district. Making sure that your child gets to go to the school district of your choice is pretty darn important. And when the school district has to make changes, it can really shake things up. So let me tell you about the Sioux Falls School District, because I think you'll be surprised by the numbers. The Sioux Falls School District currently serves over 25,000 students We currently have 44 schools, and some of those schools are starting to get very close to being at capacity. Some of the highest capacity are Lincoln High School, which is at 100% currently. Washington High School, 95%. Roosevelt is at 90%. And we have the new Jefferson, which has relieved a little bit of pressure over on that northwest side of town. But we do have the Laurel Wilder Elementary and Hayward Elementaries that are already over capacity. So some of these areas are already struggling with too many students in one school. And I can only imagine how that's going to change. The Northwest Corridor alone has some pretty crazy projections. They're anticipating over 1,400 new households in the next 5 years, just in that northwest corner. They're anticipating 2,500 households over the next 6 to 15 years. A couple of upcoming changes to note is that there is actually a bond vote coming up in April of 2027. The Renberg Elementary School up in that Renner area is slated to close in 2028. So those children are going to have to find new elementary schools to go to. And then we are also annexing in portions of Lenox, which could add over 300, maybe even 400 students. So when you add in the new developments, the new homes, people coming into the Sioux Falls area, there's definitely boundary changes that are bound to happen. So being aware of some of those changes and what could happen and making decisions based on the neighborhood, the school, it's very important, but you want to stay in the loop on any changes that are coming your way. We do have some private school options throughout the city of Sioux Falls, which are really great as well. So I'm just talking about the public school sector, and you can definitely see there's a strain there, which will definitely change boundary lines. And I actually had this happen to a client of mine just a few years ago. When that Jefferson school was added, they faced a huge problem. Their kids wanted to stay in their same schools, but they were one road away from being in the right school district. So even though they loved their home and they would love to stay there, it was more important to them to get their kids into the school district that had changed. So we ended up putting their house on the market and finding them an off-market opportunity, because at this time there were a lot of people making changes because of this move. So we had to find them an off-market opportunity to get them moved over. Luckily, their home sold fairly quickly and they were able to get the kids into that new home before the school year started. So the school district definitely tries to make these decisions thoughtfully, but something to note is when those schools are close to capacity, you'll want to know that, because maybe there's a district change that's going to be happening in the near future. So find the neighborhood, find the vibe you're looking for, and make those educated decisions. Again, check out that link in the description so you can go into this with eyes wide open. Now, if all this talk about Sioux Falls and the growth and the changes that are happening within our city limits has you wondering if maybe you should look outside of city limits, there are families like you that are looking for more space, a quieter environment, maybe smaller school districts. So you're going to want to check out this next video that goes through all of the options that are available just on the perimeter of Sioux Falls. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.